So look, I don't think of myself as a VC. I think of myself as a founder. I think of myself as a customer lover and as someone who desperately wants to focus the entire world, especially the United States, which for me is like the greatest nation on the planet when it comes to entrepreneurship, because it was invented here. Other countries may, and I say this as like an originate Irish guy, but like other countries may feel, well, we had entrepreneurship beforehand. No, you didn't. You took entrepreneurship because like 4 people in your city did entrepreneurship. The other like 150,000 people worked a fucking job. But at the beginning days in the United States, everybody was an entrepreneur.
Right.
But it was an even playing field with guns and stuff. Right? And I want that back again, minus the guns.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. It's the first.
Long time in the making.
Not the first time I've been filmed in a car, but that's like a whole different story.
So as we're driving through the parking ramp, for people that don't know, what's Expert Dojo?
We started out as a pay it forward for entrepreneurs to be able to meet the folks that can help them get better, stronger, and all those wonderful things. And that then converted into a venture studio, which was really a growth hacking venture studio where the speciality most of the folks was trying for poor people to be less poor. Right? Help them grow, help them find clients. And then that converted into a early stage accelerator where we started investing in companies on the same principle, right? And then that converted into one whereby we didn't invest in bad companies. And then we got better and better, I suppose, as time goes by.
Right.
But it always started with the same purpose, which is that really creativity and entrepreneurship doesn't reflect necessarily the people who build unicorns, right? A lot of those folks are extremely well connected, know the right people, go to the right schools, and all those wonderful things. And that's not reflective of the really good entrepreneurs here. So we thought if we're going to equal, or even, I don't even want to equal the playing field. I don't want rich people to be less rich, but if we can at least tilt up the founders, which are amazing executing founders, so they can also build great companies. You can only do that through growth and aligned greed.
I want to get to the why behind Expert Dojo. So why did you start it? And why do you continue to do it?
So I think a lot of things that you begin are not done necessarily because you could see the entirety of the journey. If you could, you wouldn't do it, right? It's been 10 years. It's brutal.
Right.
But your purpose becomes clearer. And I like that you start with the why, because really as a founder, whether you're an investor or whether you've got an early stage company, you need a strong purpose to align. Otherwise, you can't build emotional resonance with your consumer, which means you can't build transformative impact. And so the why at the beginning was kind of a nagging interest, which is super weird how everybody seems to go to the same school and live in San Francisco.
Right.
Like, why is that?
Right.
And then I had all these, and actually, let me go back a little bit. 20, 30 years ago, venture capital was great. The idea was you get a great founder, have a company that's doing really well, give them a little bit of fuel, maybe like $2, $3, $5 million at Series A, not at seed.
Right.
At seed, like way less. So even if you're an amazing founder and somebody doesn't give you money and you're competing against someone who has $3, $5 million, then it's okay. Like you can compete against that person. But at some stage over the last 15, 20, 25 years, it just all got fucked up. And I really...
In what ways?
In that, if you can raise... Let's take Clubhouse as a great example. Now, they failed, which is okay.
Right.
But they got $100 million for their seed round. Why? What are you going to do with $100 million that you seed round before you've raised any money whatsoever? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to destroy all competition with unfair competition. Like, we want unfair competition in America. Awesome. We just got it. And we got it in buckets full.
Right.
And now we have no capability for really incredible innovation to come through. And like, how is that measured? It's measured in where we're ranked in innovation charts around the world. We're dog shit right now. Like, forget about competing with China. Like, you know, get out of your box on your head. Like, we're trying to compete with Estonia right now. And the problem is we have a collusive, I would say, so unfair, anti-competitive environment whereby nobody is allowed breakthrough unless they have a ton of money. And so where do those problems come from? Like, folks like SoftBank raising $100 billion funds. Like, what are you going to do with a $100 billion fund?
Right.
Who are you going to give that to?
Right.
And so there's too much money. And the problem is not the venture capitalists. The problem is the amount of money that is available to the venture capitalists. So I love consumer-focused beautifulness, right? And I think the customer should be the ultimate god. I think people should care less about venture capitalists. I think venture capitalists should care a lot about a company. And as they see a company growing and doing really well, we should be hoping that we can get included as part of their journey, because they're the ones that are making that difficult journey. And if we don't fix this, like, forget Expert Dojo, we're a small piece of a very, very large problem. But if we don't fix this, then America's done. For real. Like, it's that serious.
Good.
And so it's a really, really interesting time right now. And our heroes are the entrepreneurs that are building products that customers really need. They don't, focus on BS terms like minimum viable product or something awful like that, or lean startup or something even worse like that. They're focused on lovable product.
Right.
Complete, transformative, simple. They're focused on obsessively working with their customers. And then we get back, right? That was the way it was at the start.
I love the fact you're open book, so I know I can always ask you whatever. And I love that. Do you think the VC community is collaborative, or do you think it's just the opposite of that?
Is collaborative and collusive the same?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So I think the VC community knows really well how to make money.
Right.
That doesn't make anybody a bad person. It just means they know how to make money.
Right.
And I think that if unchecked, you can veer very quickly towards a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme or something where the end result is dictated before the beginning starts.
And you mean by dumping a ton of capital into something?
Yeah. I mean, look, if we've all seen like the really good movies where later stage public markets are manipulated. Look, what was Billions?
Yeah.
You've seen Billions?
Right.
It's great. Like, you gotta love Bobby. You hate Bobby, but you love Bobby. But like, underneath his charismatic, wonderful demeanor and the just incredible way that the thing was produced lies a snake of epic proportion, literally manipulating and destroying later stage industry. So the only thing that's happened is that, like, back in the day, a company went public at 100 million valuation. Like, Microsoft was a huge public offering, I think at 250 or something. But like, before that, if you were a 50, 80 million dollar valuation, you were a huge company. What did Coinbase go public at? 100 billion?
Right.
So it's changed, right? And now the later stage public markets have moved into the early stage private markets. So we have a huge problem.
Right.
In that the later stage guys are like, what are we doing? Waiting up here for like a tenth of the value, and all of the value is being made between $0 and $100 billion. We'll take that, thank you very much. But look, I'm not saying that VCs are collusive. I'm just saying it's a where if there's 1,000 soldiers fighting against one soldier, you know how the movie ends.
Right.
Like, the 1,000 soldiers don't need any inside information. They just need to be 1,000.
Right.
Right. And if you have a deep data AI blah 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 which is fighting, like, that if you take all of the developers and you have all of the best people and you put like $1 billion, $2 billion, $3, $5, $7 billion into a company, then 99% of all competition is wiped out. And that's why OpenAI is where it is. And there'll be like 2 or 3 competitors,
sure,
but they'll all win.
So when you think of startup teams, and founders and building teams, there's a lot that exit mid stages, right? That probably get gobbled up into what you're talking about. But where do you think founders typically fail in execution?
So I think 99% of founders never had any chance in the first place. Period. Execution, no execution. So you saw the movie WeWork.
Right.
I mean, I knew Adam really well from WeWork. I knew the guys in WeWork. I knew the people in Regis. I knew the people everywhere. He got given billions of dollars to unfairly compete. Like we saw it in the movie. Like he destroyed everyone.
Right.
How you guys want free rent for 2 years? How about we take a building which is no way can ever provide the metrics to be a proper financial return, and we take that building.
Right.
Why not? Because we have unlimited amounts of money. So the problem becomes when you're a co-working space, a executive suite space, anything, and you're trying to compete with that. How do you compete with that? Free rent for 2 years.
Can't.
And so they're dead.
Right.
And so, yeah, I knew amazing executors in that space who got decimated, not because of COVID, but because of anti-competitive practices which were brought in because of too much money. And so I think there's a couple of things. Number one, we got to be real. And look, by the way, there's a positive part of it too. It's not all terrible. Like I'm in VC because I do see really good things from it. So, but I just think we got to understand the rules. I'll give you a really good analogy, which I like, which I think compares to the world, because none of us are exempt to this. So think of a marathon, and there's 1,000 people who are going to start on the marathon, and of the 1,000 people, there are 500 people, including me and including you, who we don't have to start on mile 1. We're good. We went to college, we went to school, we got well educated, we got brought into the good regions, we know people. Like we're not the top of the top of the top, and that mammies and daddies gave us trust funds, but we're high enough up that we got to start on mile 6. Right. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. We did nothing to deserve this. We just got it. Right. And even people who and then there's some people who say, Brian, I didn't start on mile 6. Yeah, but you started on mile 2. And mile 3. But there's people living in East LA, they're starting on mile -2. And there's no way they can get past that, right? That's okay. That is the unfairness that is built within life. People break through. That's the American dream. Where the problem comes in is when you start looking and saying, well, hang on a second. It's mile 6 that we're starting at, but there are some people who are getting an Uber at mile 9. Right. It's waiting for them. And it's not the normal Uber, like it's the proper big one, you know, the good one that's like really flash, and you have to step into the car to try and do it, and they're at mile 9, and so you have people at mile -2 trying to run a 28 mile, 2 miles plus 26 in a bit, and then so you got those people running that, and then you've got other people running 3 miles, so it's not fair. Right. And so that is the rules that we are within right now, and that scares me because I don't mind people starting at mile 1 and mile 2 and mile 3 and mile 4, because people at minus mile 2, if they're really good, they or their kids will be able to actually break through. What I mind is people being able to get an Uber at mile 9. Right. Can't do that, right? So, okay, they're the rules of where we stand right now.
That said, is execution the most important factor?
So there's 4 parts of execution for me. There's execution of outreach, execution of optimizing a customer, execution of lovable product, and execution of systems. You got to have all 4 at different times. You don't need systems on day 1, but you need systems by the time you're hitting a little bit of revenue in your company. Are you going to find it's all going to fall through the cracks? You don't need a lovable product on day 1, but you need it on day 1.5. And lovable product does not mean a complete product. It means that feature is complete. It means you give the customer the respect. And you don't need to have a fully optimized product whereby you have emotional resonance with the customer on day 1, but you need to be working towards it. You need to be working towards purpose, working towards brand, working towards building trust in a trustless world. You need to be working towards building domain expertise. You need to make sure that your personal brand is strong. All of these things are the things that you need to reduce down the cost of customer acquisition, because anybody who thinks that they can just do Google ads today and get a positive return on them are on crack cocaine. You ain't going to get it, right? So you need that optimization to try and get there. And like I said, the outreach is super important. It's not just about getting the customer to activate something on the first touch. You need a self-repeatable growth loop.
Right.
that's built inside that. And that growth loop might be affiliates, it might be partnerships, it might be any of the social media platforms, it may be like any of the search platforms. It could be, I think of appreciation is a growth loop.
Right.
How you interact with your customers and the people around you.
My belief is everything starts with the system, honestly. I think you have to have a system and define what you're doing, how you're doing it, and iterate on that over and over again. I really believe the best founders are ones that are systems-based, and they iterate to their success and their goal. They can iterate their product, lovability, and how they're doing biz dev, how they're raising capital. Everything's an iteration. I think the basis is systems.
Totally right. The first day, if you don't have a very specific plan that you're going towards. So we do, for example, an audit on our companies in those 4 areas on the very first week, month they're with us.
Okay.
Audit on their outreach quality, audit on their optimization, audit on their systems, and audit on their lovable product. And wherever they're the weakest, that's where we focus our efforts.
Right. That's awesome. What do you think most people get wrong when they're fundraising?
They care too much about it. I hate I think fundraising is just a horrible thing. And look, I'm an investor, but it's a horrible thing because it's like saying, what do you think most about finding love? Yeah, you're screwed. Like the moment those 2 words got put together, you're done, right? Because the person who did find love, that was the person who's out there trying to enjoy their life with people who enjoy things that they enjoy doing.
Right.
The moment you make fundraising the most important thing in your life, you are dead. Like I literally had a call with my people this morning. I told them, fuck investors. You don't have to be nice. You don't have to be polite. You don't have to be, oh my gosh, you're great, because the toxic relationship has gone too far. You do have to be polite, actually. You should be polite to everybody, but you don't have to care. If you're doing amazing, if your customer loves you, if your trajectory reflects that your customer loves you, it's a game of math. Investors need a founder much more than a founder needs investors if the founder is a good founder.
Right.
We don't get to have another job if we screw up our investment job. And it's very, very hard to find a founder who is able to execute through seed, especially to Series A. So, by the way, anybody who's raised seed money, don't congratulate yourself. My mom could raise seed money. Seed money is so easy right now. There's so many people out there who are smart and so many people out there who are idiots that anybody can raise seed. Nobody gets to raise Series A unless you're able to move through to the next phase. That's the only bar that matters as far as IRR is concerned. And like you made the point about the targets and making sure that you're actually aiming at something. It's like, it would be like anything in life. It would be like saying, hey, you know, I'm going to go to school. I know I have to get like 3 or 4 B's in my exams. Like I have to get them or I'm not going to get into this college. That's why college is like such a great metric for execution. It's like, you know what you got to hit. There's no secrets, there's no surprises. You either hit it or you don't hit it. Your execution is the specific number. What I dislike about startup, especially early stage, is people talk about this thing which is opaque and hard to follow. It's not opaque. You're either hitting 100 to 200% growth every single year or you are not. If you are not hitting 100 to 200% growth, then unless you are recalibrating your products to create a more lovable product, which is totally okay, then you are not on trajectory for a venture backable company, period.
What are your criteria if companies should be fundable or not?
So I have a great friend, a man who used to be over in 500 startups at Dave McClure, and he has a wonderful system. He has followed on with the best companies that we have in Expert Dojo, bar any other investor. Nobody has picked out our best. Like I know them after a while because they're like our kids that we've had with us for years, and I see them. I see who executes, I see who does them, I see where they are. But the other investors don't get to see that. And so he came in and he's like, that one, that one, that one, that one. I'm like, man, how did you pick like the 5 best ones we have so quickly? And he said, I got 5 criteria. Criteria number 1, company's growing at 100. By the way, this was in 2021. I would maybe moderate this a tiny bit now.
Sure.
But he's like, company hits 100% growth, good, in the year. 200% growth, great. 300% growth, amazing. They hit 70% renewal, good. 100% great, 150% amazing. Why 150% amazing? Because your customers should be buying more from you. It's early.
Right.
If they're not buying more, then you're not wowing them, right? 150% amazing. Then we go on to margins. If you're hitting 0 margin, that's good. It's okay. You don't have to hit more than 0 margin. If you're hitting 10% margin, great. If you're hitting more than 20% margin, amazing, right? Then it's about how much money you have in the bank. If you've got less than 6 months, it's not good, but if you're hitting 6 months, that's good. 12 months and 18 months. And then it's about, have the founders done a startup before? Have the founders done a startup and had a small exit? Have the founders done a startup and had a big exit? Is a score.
Yeah.
50 points, doesn't even bother weighting them. If you're coming up with a high enough trajectory on the 50 points, you're okay.
All metrics based.
All metric based.
That's amazing.
And that's my biggest advice to founders. I'm extremely purpose-based. I'm extremely story-based. Everything for me about dealing with your customers is all about creating that really good story. But when it comes to investors, we ain't in that market anymore. Investors are afraid. Investors have lost money. Most investors are down. You speak to one metric and one metric only, and that is their IRR, their internal rate of return. Right now, limited partners can get 5% in the bank. They can get 10 to 15% if they're doing most reasonable stock trades or real estate or something else. They're getting 20 to 40% if they're playing in crypto. And the average IRR for a venture-backable fund is around 5 to 10%. 50% will lose money.
Right.
Why would an LP put money into a general partner fund to try and get a return back? The stories are over.
Right.
So if you're a founder, I only want to know one thing. I want to know how quickly are you going to make it to Series A with what level of probability, at what revenue number that you're going to do, which is tied into what you've got today. So I know that what my IRR is going to be.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting to me that a lot of financial models are built, but they're not used internally in the organizations. And I'm under the hood of a ton of these companies. They build the financial models, they share it with the investors, they come back, and then their team will be like, well, we don't really know. We don't really want to put markers on things because we don't know if we're going to hit it or not.
Yeah.
And they're unwilling to have difficult conversations with their team. The CRO says, hey, I don't think we're going to hit 20 million.
Yeah.
CEO says, I told the board we're going to hit 20 million. There's a level of distrust, and they won't have the conversations that they need to have. And once there's distrust in the CEO, and there's distrust in the CRO, there's distrust on the team, and the team wants to succeed.
Yeah.
Teams only succeed if there's trust on the team, and you have to have those conversations.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm sitting in the room forcing the conversation. You said 20 million. You said 30 million. Why are you saying 30? Why are you saying 20? Okay, they agree, let's say I'm 32 for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
And then it's the question that they don't usually ask is, okay, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
We already said we're going to hit 32 now. Like, how are we going to do this? Let's map that out.
Yeah.
And the teams that are willing to do that work and willing to have those conversations, for me, those are the teams that always succeed.
Yeah.
It's the teams that say, okay, let's just do 25, and then they walk away.
Yeah.
Now you're measuring 25 week over week, and you're like, why are we not hitting 25?
Yeah.
Because you never had the conversation how we're actually hitting it in the first place.
Yes. 100%.
So that's why I'm passionate about
100%.
about execution and about having the difficult conversations.
Yeah.
You know?
But to your point, without the first conversation about what is the activities, like we don't measure the revenue, we measure to activities.
Right.
Only to activities. Like, what are you going to do today? I have one guy, Matt, over at North, and Matt came to me 6 months ago, and Matt said to me, I'm going to start this company. We're going to be reducing down the cost of Amazon storage. There's a ton of things out there. All companies need it. It's frictionless innovation. I know it's your favorite, Brian. And I said, it is my favorite. I hate disruption because I've got to fight everybody and it's too expensive and you can lose. I love frictionless innovation. And so everybody wants this. Even the cloud companies are happy with this because they understand there has to be a certain amount where this gets done on. And he's like, how are you going to do it though, Matt? How are you going to get these corporates to trust you in a trustless world where nobody trusts anyone? And Matt said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 75 phone calls every single day. And I know that I'm a good enough salesperson that if I do 75 phone calls every single day, I'm going to absolutely make coin. And since that time, he's made 75 phone calls every single day. He's added on extra SDRs. I spoke to him this morning and he's like, yeah, Brian, we hit 50K a month in revenue. We're going to hit 100K a month by the end of quarter 2. So I know with a high level of probability
Right.
that that founder is going to get, as long as the growth loop doesn't break, that founder is going to hit 250K a month in revenue, which is going to bring him to a Series A. I know that based on current trajectory, he's going to hit there somewhere between March, April, May of 2025. I know that my IRR is going to jump from his current valuation of $10 million to a $30 million, which is pretty commensurate with a $25 million, with a, sorry, a $250,000 a month that he's got coming in revenue, which means 200% increase. 200% increase over 1 year is a 200% IRR.
Right.
You give me a 200% IRR, I love you more than my family. Right, you win. And that's all this game is. Stop lying. We all lie. We lie as a fund. We're going to be the greatest fund in the whole world. We're going to bring you like the most no, we're not. We don't know that. There's no scientific or numerical basis to say that.
But you can set a mark and then figure out how you're going to actually achieve that mark.
One of my good friends, Jeffrey DeLassio, who's invested in 200 companies, and he said, if you would like me to show you 200 companies, I will show you 200 lies. And 200 lies is the projections that I've seen for the 200 companies. Lies, lies, lies. And then we hear all of this crap, fake it till you make it. What numbers do investors need to see? Hockey stick to the right. We got to stop this stuff.
Right.
We got to start building real companies again that are customer-centric based. We don't have to raise $5 million in the first 3 weeks. Maybe we should actually go out there and prove the thing works. So look, I don't think of myself as a VC. I think of myself as a founder. I think of myself as a customer lover and as someone who desperately wants to focus the entire world, especially the United States, which for me is like the greatest nation on the planet when it comes to entrepreneurship, because it was invented here. Other countries may, and I say this as like an originate Irish guy, but like other countries may feel, well, we had entrepreneurship beforehand. No, you didn't. You took entrepreneurship because like 4 people in your city did entrepreneurship. The other like 150,000 people worked a fucking job. But at the beginning days in the United States, everybody was an entrepreneur.
Right.
But it was an even playing field with guns and stuff. Right? And I want that back again, minus the guns, right? I want that back again. And so, yeah.
I have one last question for you. Possibly the most important question of all. You're on a desert island. This desert island has enough food for you to sustain you. You have this boombox on this desert island, and you can only bring one cassette tape. It's the only music you can listen to the rest of your life. What album are you gonna bring?
Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just a great soundtrack. Look, if I was gonna bring the thing about early stage startups. So my favorite music to listen to is Eminem. I love Eminem, right?
Right.
And so you can imagine all of the genres around that. Not so much hip hop, but like funny, I never think of him as hip hop because all of his stuff is kind of music goes with tunes. So like, but I love that type of music, or I love EDM and that type of music. But I wake up at 4:30 every single day, and I do probably somewhere between 12 and 19 Zooms every single day. And I will interact with probably 15 to 30 of our founders most days, or at least every second day. And so when you do that, you got to love what you do. And if you love what you do, you got to set the tempo for what you do. And that tempo has to be constant because people rely on you to do stuff. And so even if I'm on that island and I don't know who else is going to be there, I got to wake up in the morning with the tunes of Guardian of the Galaxy kicking me off on the day, ready to do what's got to be done.
That's awesome.
I love every minute.
Hey, well, thanks for joining me for the ride.
Thank you, brother.
And we got you back pretty close to the extra 10 minutes that you gave us.
I appreciate you.